Good morning. How's my face look? I was attacked by a nanobot yesterday. I didn't say anything about it though. I just went with the flow. I knew because my eye was puffy. And then last night, man, whatever happened last night, it was pretty intense, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works. And apparently, no, that's dead. She's been crushed. Psh. Yesterday was the last attack. And you saw what happened, right? And now you don't have that anymore. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I've got evidence, a lot of evidence, of all of these times I've tried to go get a job. And they don't do direct hire, it seems, in Dallas. Nobody does direct hire anymore. You got to go through some third party contractor. And I remember reading several years ago that for a certain amount of time, there was actually a policy, a government policy, where third party contractors that provided labor services actually had a kind of subsidy where each person who applied had accounts associated with that labor agency that then made the company available for subsidies based upon providing employment services to that person up to a certain amount of money that qualified for a tax incentive that they then passed on to the businesses they provided those labor services to. It's one of the reasons why the company might be willing to actually pay more per person to go to a third party labor agency than to do a direct hire. Because by going through that third party agency, the company got kicked back for the tax relief, right? And so now everybody uses these companies, or do they? Or is it more just a matter of the third party labor service company getting a whole bunch of resumes and then harvesting people's human capital remotely while people presumably are waiting for a job and then using that harvested bioenergy to be diverted to all these different companies that just circulate it for compensation for the people they have hired who end up getting credited to that company. And it's all a very, very, very sophisticated kickback laundering scheme situation. But the actual legal justifications, the actual legal arguments that could be made, end up getting mixed up in all of these administrative processes and all these rules and procedures. And it takes really, really, really complicated casework and lawyers at the highest level, at the highest caliber, and ultimately a regular schmuck like me isn't even supposed to know about that level of the law, much less be able to afford a lawyer who does, right? And especially if you go to agency after agency after agency and see the same racial typecasting, the literal racial programming, it's really horrible. Who they put in what positions at what temp agencies and what kinds of jobs are given to those temp agencies. And I'm sure in somebody's family style, they create a little network, they help each other out, right? But then you get somebody that doesn't fit the standard profile of the person going in. They never have a job for me. Never. And if I do get on site, my clitoris hurts so fucking much, I can't stay more than 15 minutes. Now, the other people that fit the racial profile, do they have the same kind of genital torture and just acclimate to it? Or do they allow themselves to have some sort of Medicare account that attenuates it so that it's supposed to feel like they're getting some sort of incentive on the job and it's actually supposed to be pleasurable? See, I don't know. Because as soon as you start trying to use my clit as part of your business operations, I'm out of there. And that's why I can't stay on site at these places they've sent me to through these third party labor service providers the entire time I've been in Texas. See, in Houston, you can't get a job. In Houston, they're pretty blunt about it. I'm sorry, we don't have jobs for women. You can go across the street. You know what happens across the street? You wait across the street for the guy to come out with his cash, and he might give you a hotel room for the night if you give him entertainment. They're pretty blatant about it. But they also have a completely different racial profile in Houston. You know that? Dallas is different. They're a little more subtle. They might actually give a woman a job, but it's expected that she's going to be in a particular kind of job and that she is going to give them special features during the time frame she's on the job. This is what I've seen the entire fucking time I've been here. So, I called up this agency. I thought, well, maybe they might, what happened over the weekend. They weren't gonna give me a fucking job. They were gonna do the same thing they do every time. Including, not only that one time I did try a direct hire, which wasn't even a direct hire. That's what I mean, nobody does a direct hire. You contact a store, an agency, a store. You contact an employer that says they're hiring. You go through their formal process. You even go through the formal PowerPoint. The formal process, the training process online. And then they tell you right before you're supposed to start, oh yeah, actually, I know we told you on the phone that you were being hired by our company, but actually you're being directly hired by the other company. And then you go to the training and they're like doing all this stuff as if you're with the store, but in the electronic system, you're set up with the other company, right? And nobody will quantify. And meanwhile, they do the same thing even with that direct employer, the one you get that they do with all these fucking temporary agencies, which is they set up an account on you and you get all of your information in. You even pass the background check, and then you go in to put your number in the day. Oh, I'm sorry, something went wrong. We're going to have to do it again. Every fucking time. Every fucking time. I've tried to apply for a fucking job in Texas. Every fucking time the same thing happens. I go through a process, the account gets open, they get my information, they put it in. And then when it's my time to actually start, oh, I'm sorry, there's a problem. They misspelled my name. The number's wrong. That account's just not working. Usually what happens is the first 48 hours, if I get that far, I'm not even actually in the system. And then by the time I get into the system with the second account they've opened up, it is so horrible and excruciating and painful and toxic. And everybody else acts like a total fucking jackass. They're simulating things they have no business simulating. And what they're literally directly supposed to be doing, so it's like they got drugged. I swear to God, it's like the surveillance and whoever it is that thinks they have the right to hijack the surveillance and try to torture me. And it is specific to me. I don't know why. And they ping people, and these people act like they're on drugs, and they do things that are so unsafe. I can't stay on site. And then what ends up happening? Well, I track hundreds of millions of dollars that end up getting fucking paid out as a fine by a major investment company that for whatever reason was being simulated in that manufacturing facility. Twice that happened. Just so you know. Twice that happened. Same fucking company. And then you got all the other things that happen. Completely sequences of events. Twice I've been on site trying to have an actual job. Something went wrong. It was a little wrong. There was an equipment malfunction. Somebody they just left the chemical out. They didn't keep track of it. And there was literally a fucking terrorist attack while I was on site. After what just happened over this weekend, you're setting me up for more of the same. And here's the thing. There's nothing legitimate about having done all these things that have been done to me and then do this other thing, which is going on in the other current, which is somehow you're going to give me some compensation. Well, we wanted to pay her, but if she doesn't go down, you're not talking about me. You're using me to launder money and or a kickback for somebody else. Every fucking time. And I go on site and they set up the profile and you make the dump and you make the payoff to whoever the fuck it is that you give my first account to. And then my ass is back doing whatever the fuck else you thought you could get away with. Up to and including trying to figure out how to stop people from acting real time, third dimensionally in the moment in ways that make absolutely no fucking comprehensible sense until I see the public notice about the terrorist attack somewhere else. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Now we're at a situation where I'm like, you know what? We don't need these fucking agencies. We're in a fucking crisis. I'm sorry. Third-party labor service providers are not essential services. And they weren't essential services all last year. How many of them lured people in to open up an account and then tried to run some PPP racket on it? So now we're on day 2. This workers' comp hustle in Texas is a national security threat. We need a major overhaul of the so-called temporary service or third-party labor service providers. And if it was up to me, I would issue an injunction today to shut down every single third-party labor recruitment organization in the state of Texas for the next, what's the time frame? 30 days. The month of April, For the entire month of April, which, by the way, is going to be a very important month. For the entire month of April, starting, give them 2 days to figure out what to do. I'm sorry. It's like a layoff. It's like a layoff. Every single temporary labor agency, every third party provider of labor services is going to be shut down for a month. And every single person contracting with a third party service provider is going to have to report all of the records for the last 7 years. All of the record, no, out of the, I think 7 years is the time frame you can do it. I'll check. 7 to 10 years. I'll let you know by the morning of April 1st, and I'll make sure to make another announcement tomorrow. Every single temporary third-party labor service agency in the state of Texas needs to be shut down for the entire month of April, and everybody contracting with them is going to have to provide comprehensive documentation of their relationships by April 15th.